Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Inshallah, everyone is doing well. Tonight's lesson will be on al-lu'lu wal-Marjan fima ittafaqa alayhi shaykhan. Compilation of hadiths agreed upon by the two sheikhs, Al-Bukhari and Muslim. We're in Kitab al-Siyam, book of fasting. We reached hadith number 680, under chapter 15. It says, Babu jawaz al-sawmi wal-fitri fi shahri Ramadan lil-musafiri fi ghayri ma'siyatin إذا كان سفره مرحلتين فأكثر. Chapter 15 says a traveler may or may not observe Sawm in the month of Ramadan without being liable for a sin if the journey is of 2 stages or more. Chapter heading in English, in my humble opinion, isn't that clear. In Arabic, it's clearer, and we'll use our translation, inshallah ta'ala. So point number 1, it says جواز الصوم والفطر في شهر رمضان للمسافر في غير معصية. Is that if you're traveling, and if you're not traveling, or if you're traveling obeying Allah, you're not disobeying Allah, it's not a trip of disobedience. It isn't a trip in which you're going to drink or smoke or fornicate or commit adultery or steal or kill or rob or plunder. It isn't ma'asiyah. You're not making a trip for innovation, a trip for any type of mutiny against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As long as the trip isn't involving and including disobedience to Allah, then it is permissible for you to keep your fast, for you to observe your Sawm, or for you to break your fast and not observe the Sawm and not observe the Sawm. Tayyib, moving forward. So therefore, both are permissible. If you wish to keep your fast, if you want to break your fast, as long as your trip does not include disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the second condition or stipulation, إِذَا كَانَ سَفَرُهُ مَرْحَلَتَيْنِ فَأَكْثَرَ. As long as the journey is of 2 marhala, quote unquote, stages or more. In other words, as a minimum, an-nisab. The journey cannot be less than marhalatayn, 2 marhalas, which we'll explain inshallah what a marhala is. So therefore, it is permissible to do whatever you want to do, fast or not, in the month of Ramadan. It doesn't have to be a voluntary fast. It doesn't have to be a made-up fast, but in the actual sacred holy month, you are allowed to break your fast or keep your fast when you travel. With the stipulation, A, is that your trip does not include you disobeying Allah. And stipulation 2 is that the trip or the journey cannot be no less than 2 marhalas. It cannot be less than 2 marhalas. Khayran, inshallah. So we have much fiqh involved just in the chapter heading. Hadith 680. حديث ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم خرج إلى مكة في رمضان فصام حتى بلغ الكديد أفطر فأفطر الناس. حديث جابر بن عبد الله رضي الله عنهما قال كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم في سفر فرأى زحاما ورجلا قد ظلل عليه فقال ما هذا فقالوا صائم فقال ليس من البر الصوم في السفر. حديث أنس بن مالك رضي الله تعالى عنه قال كنا نسافر مع النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فلم يبل الصائم على المفطر ولا المفطر على الصائم. Hadith 680 is narrated by Ibn Abbas. May Allah be pleased with them both. Allah's Messenger ﷺ set out for Mecca in Ramadan and he was observing Sawm. And when he reached Al-Kadid, he broke his Sawm. The people broke their fast as well. 681 is narrated by Jabir, the son of Abdullah. May Allah be pleased with them both. Allah's Messenger, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, was on a journey and saw a crowd of people and a man who was being shaded by them. He asked, "What is this matter?" They said, "He is fasting." The Prophet ﷺ said, "It is not from righteousness that you observe Sawm on a journey." Hadith 682 is narrated by Anas, the son of Malik. May Allah be well pleased with them both. Or the radiallahu ta'ala anhu. May Allah be well pleased with Anas. We used to travel with the Prophet ﷺ, and neither did the persons observing fast criticize those who were not observing the fast, nor did those who were not observing the fast criticize the ones who were observing the fast. So we have three hadiths: Ibn Abbas, Jabir, and Anas. ومن لطائف هذا الباب, from the subtle benefits of this chapter, is that all three narrations are min riwayat al-mukthirin fil hadith. They're from the 7 prolific narrators of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu in one chapter: Ibn Abbas, Jabir, and Anas. Khairan inshallah ta'ala. So, we have 3 hadiths that talk about the chapter heading: can we travel and fast? Can we travel and break our fast in the month of Ramadan? And where is the stipulation? First and foremost is that the trip cannot involve disobedience to Allah. Where is that stipulated in these hadiths? Question 2, where is it stipulated that the journey was more than 2 stages or stations, a marhala? And it's another example of how the explainer of the hadiths and the one who makes the chapter headings, his madhab, his fiqh stipulations, his cup is going to be relatively full. Before they even get into quoting the hadiths, they've already placed the hadiths in a parameter. If the hadiths fit in that parameter or not, that's the parameter that has already been made. Okay? So the explainer, the commentator, Nawawi, may Allah have mercy upon him, and he's also the one who put the chapter headings in Sahih Muslim, as we have explained before. Imam Muslim did not place the chapter headings in his book, in contrast to Imam al-Bukhari. No one can come along and put a chapter heading in Bukhari. Bukhari put his own abwab. No, he did not place the chapter headings in his book. Rather, he only placed the kutub, the main books, and he organized and arranged the hadiths appropriately as if they were in a chapter. As if they were in a chapter, but he never ever put a chapter heading himself. Any chapter heading that you read in Sahih Muslim is going to come from one of the commentators, such as Qurtubi or such as a Nawawi. And obviously they're coming to the table with their own fiqh madhabs. Sometimes it's right, inaccurate, other times it isn't, or other times it's room for discussion and a second opinion. So therefore, do these hadiths stipulate that the trip cannot be disobedience? Of course, the companions didn't travel with the Prophet for disobedience. That's clear. That they wouldn't travel with the Messenger of Allah to disobey Allah. They were the people that Allah sent down the verses regarding وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى وَلْتَكُن مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةٌ. All right, verse after verse, mandating for us to do the right thing. They were the people who got those revelations. So they wouldn't blatantly disrespect Allah like that. Of course not. The Messenger would never allow that. Okay? Harisun alaykum. Allah says that He's diligent upon the believers. But where does it stipulate in these hadiths, regardless of other hadiths, let alone fiqh rulings that aren't even directly taken from the hadiths, where does it state that the trip can't be fi ghayr ma'siyah? Secondly, is that the marhalatain cannot be extracted from the part regarding al-kadid or not. Alright, so now let's get into some of these terms. And it's very important, as we've explained before, to translate and to convert the ancient terms, measurements, volume, weight, distance, names, titles of things, to translate them into the modern contemporary understanding, let alone the Western understanding. What is a marhala? When you're driving and you're using the Waze app, does it show you 2 marhala until you reach the bridge? Does it show you that on Google Maps or any other type of GPS system? Do the road signs tell you marhalatain until you reach this city and that town? Or does it say something else? So we have to translate, first and foremost, is the ancient Arabic, the ancient terms used in the time of the Prophet ﷺ. Tilka ummatun qad khalat. Allah says that's an ummah that has passed. Their terms, their measurements, some have survived, others are totally obsolete. So we have to translate those words and terms, those usages, into the time of the contemporary, or not the contemporary, even before the contemporary, the medieval scholars like Nawawi and Ibn Hajar. And then from their time to our time, modern Arabic, current Arabic, and then from Arabic into English, into miles, into kilometers, into yards, and the list goes on. Khairan inshallah ta'ala. So I'm going to read here a fatwa. This fatwa is from the year 1400 of the Hijrah, 1981, the Common Era. And this fatwa here is from the مقدار المرحلة والفرسخ والميل بالكيلومتر ومقدار المسافة التي يجوز فيها القصر والفطر. This is a fatwa or istishara, a question that was posed to the لجنة رابطة العلماء السوريين. Okay, the collection of scholars of Syria. The collection of scholars of Syria, the board of Syrian scholars. The question says, نرجو أن توضحوا لنا بالكيلومتر مقدار المرحلة والفرسخ والميل ومقدار المسافة التي يجوز. طيب, please explain to us what is a marhala and what is a farsakh and what is a mil. What is this? Or mil. What is this? And what is the distance in which it's lawful for a person to break his fast and to shorten the prayers? خيرا إن شاء الله تعالى. So they start off by saying نص الجواب إن المسافة التي إذا قطع المسافر يجوز له قصر الصلاة والإفطار هي بالكيلومتر 80 تقريبا. أما تحديدا فهي 640 أو 80.640 كيلومتر. As far as the distance in which it's lawful for a person to shorten their prayer and to break their fast, then it is approximately 80 kilometers. 80 kilometers of distance. Now you're allowed to break your fast and you're allowed to shorten your prayers. Now, before we go back to the fatwa, we have previously explained this in Kitab al-Musafirin, the chapter of those who shorten their prayers. Qasr al-Salah, shortening the prayers. We've explained that. And it goes to validate our principle: from one thing we learn 10,000 things. From one thing we learn 10,000 things. So therefore we have Sawm that obviously pertains to Safar, and Safar which pertains to Sawm. If you didn't understand it, if you're weak in the chapter of traveling and shortening the prayers, it's going to come back to haunt you and bite you in the chapter of fasting. So the student of knowledge has to be well-rounded, and the student of knowledge has to have the ability to bounce from chapter to book, book to chapter, hadith to ayah, Sahabi to Tabi. He has to be able to bounce around. I understood it here and I understand it here. I didn't get it there, so I need to go over it again in order to get it here. And if you're strong, then you can bounce around and you can connect, and that's how you conglomerate and you build your knowledge and you stack your knowledge and you turn it into a pyramid of ilm, because you have one thing and you can use it to learn myriad things. What does it say? Myriad things. So therefore, is it permissible to break your fast and to shorten your prayers if you travel for less than this distance? We've explained that before, and we're going to explain it again. So these scholars, they're of the view is that is of 80 kilometers, taqriban, about. As far as the exact distance, then it is 80.640. And if you rounded it off, then it would probably be 81 kilometers. 81 kilometers. طيب. Obviously, the translation or the conversion of kilometers to miles. 2 miles. All right, we have the different usages and the different systems, the metric system, and the countries that do or don't use the metric system. In the United States, we don't use kilometers. We only use miles. We use miles. All right, feet, yard, etc. Okay, moving forward. So they say, وَلِتَوْضِيحِ ذَلِكَ نَقُولُ إِنَّ أَكْثَرَ الْعُلَمَاءِ قَالُوا. To explain this even further, we say most of the scholars say, and then pay close attention, they say all of the scholars. Most of them, they hold the view is that the distance of shortening the prayers is 2 marhalas. Marhalatan. And a marhala is baridan. 2 barids. So how many words did we use so far of the ancient? We see marhala and barid. Wal-barid arbatu farasikh. And a barid is 4 farsakhs. So we have marhala. We have the Russian dials now, all right? The biggest one is marhala. Take that dial off. And then we have the barid. Remove that one. And then we have farsakh. So 2 marhalas, he says here, and a marhala is approximately 2 barids. So marhala 10 will be how many barids? 4. Arbat burud. There'll be 4 of them. And each barid is 4 farsakh. So 4 times 4. If you want to count it in farsakhs, barids, marhalas. Moving forward. والفرسخ 3 أميال عباسية. فتكون المسافة 48 ميلا أو ميلا. طيب. And the farsakh is 3 Abbasid miles. Similar word, is it the exact same? A mile in Arabic and in English, 3 Abbasid miles. So therefore, it will be approximately 48 miles, Abbasid miles. Obviously, they're saying the Abbas. What's meant by that? Are we living in the time of the Abbasid Caliphate? Are we living in the times, do we even, as Muslims, have a leader, a Khalifa, a Caliph? Okay? But the system, the Caliph, he was in charge. It was his system, the metric system, the coin, the mint, وهكذا. He says, وصح ما قيل في الميل أنه 3500 ذراع آدمي وهي من رأس أطول أصبع في اليد إلى نهاية عظم المرفق من ذراع الآدمي المعتدل الخلقة وذراع على من رجحه 0.48 من في المسافة كلها. طيب. Then they go on to say, they're going to explain that the most correct view regarding an Arabic or an Abbasid mile, okay, it shows that there's khilaf, they don't agree on this, there is khilaf, is that it is 3,500 arm spans. 3,500 dhira. And a dhira, they give you the precise definition as well, it is from the longest finger of the hand to the elbow. So on my hand, everyone's fingers are different. People have different hands, etc. My hand, my longest finger will be the middle finger. So from the tip of my middle finger to the adhm al-mirfaq, the elbow. The elbow. That is a dhira in the Arabic language according to this. Not from the wrist to the elbow. Not from the wrist to the armpit or to the bicep. No. But they start atwal isba' al-yad, from the longest of the fingers on your hand to your elbow. All right? And they say here, and this is from a moderate build. Not someone who has very, very long hands, very long arms, a very long reach. And of course, that's going to be subjective. The time, the place, the age, and the race. Genes. People have very long arms. People have short arms. So a moderate-sized arm, that's what it is. And the arm, the dhira, is going to be 0.48 meters. 0.48 meters. طيب. He says, so the فالمسافة كلها, the specific distance is 80.640 equals 0.48 times 3500 times 48. طيب. ومن ذلك يتضح أن المرحلة الواحدة. So therefore, one marhala is 40 kilometers, 40.320. While farsakh, 5.40 is a kilometer, the farsakh, and the mail is 680 kilometers, etc. Khayran, inshallah. 1.680, excuse me. 1.680. So what's important is, and this was taken from مجلة الرسالة الإسلامية بغداد العدد الثاني عشر, etc. طيب. Coming from the Risala al-Islamiyya magazine. Khayran, inshallah. So that is the breakdown of it in Arabic. If you live in the UK or other parts of the world, the rest of the world, that's what you're going to use. In the United States, is going to be approximately 50 miles. Roughly 50 miles. 50 miles, give or take a little bit. So based off of this fatwa and this opinion, and based off of what we have previously explained in Kitab al-Musafirin, is that you have to travel for 50 miles outside of your city. Then you're allowed to break your fast, eat, and do whatever you want to do, shorting your prayers, etc. Khayran. We've explained in that chapter is that is not consensus of the scholars of Islam. And there are many great scholars of Islam who hold different views. And the opinion of Allah surely knows best, wallahu ta'ala alam, that we see to make the most sense. That makes the most sense to us, which is aqrab, closest to the proofs, the evidences, and the maqasid of the Sharia. The higher aims and objectives of the Sharia is that distance is not a stipulation. And at the moment you leave your city with the intention of traveling, you are a traveler. If it's a yard, a mile, 5 miles, 10 minutes, you've left the city and your niyyah was to make safar, then you are a musafir. And you're allowed to break your fast, and you're allowed to shorten your prayers, and any other type of rukhsa min rukhas safar. Any other type of permission or allowance or concession, etc. So therefore, if I'm leaving New York City, I'm leaving Philadelphia, all right? I'm leaving a borough in New York City. That's a discussion. Is a borough considered a separate city? The moment that I pass the tolls, the toll booth, I get on this bridge, I pass this border, I'm technically a musafir. Even though my home is 5 minutes away or 10 minutes away. But I've left my city, and my niyyah is to make safar. And there lies no doubt that view that says 50 miles, 50 miles is quite a distance. It's quite a distance. And if you look at the purpose and the wisdom behind breaking your fast, eating and drinking when you're traveling, you're going to have fallen into weakness and fatigue. You're going to be tired. You're going to need the energy or your snacks while you're traveling way before 50 miles. And if you're on the turnpike, if you're driving on the highway, and let's say you're doing 65 miles per hour, the speed limit, and inshallah you're keeping the speed limit and you're not breaking the speed limit, 75, some brothers like to do 80, some brothers drive in all types of speeds. So that you're being a good law-abiding citizen, okay? You're following the speed limit exactly 65, right? Maybe 70, give or take. Cops will let you go. Sometimes the police officer, he may be doing 70 or 75. But you're doing 65 to 70, 70 miles per hour. How long does it take you to drive 50 miles? Without traffic, normal traffic. At least, what, an hour? 50 minutes, roughly? 60 minutes? You didn't stop, whatever, wudu, prayer, or gas, but you drove for an hour straight. So that's an hour of you needing your food and your energy to travel. So it really doesn't make that much sense. Now, the proofs and the evidence is, we've explained some of them before, it's not about making sense. Someone say, well, the deen is not based on common sense. That's not what we're saying. We're saying in light of the khilaf and the ikhtilaf of the adillah, in light of the different proofs and evidences, in light of there not being no proof for this, in light of this hadith not necessarily being the most authentic, etc., in light of all of that, from the min qara'in tarjih, from the context clues that show in Allah alam that this view is aswab wa aqrab, etc., is that you'll be driving for 50 miles. Doing 70 miles per hour, it may take you 50 minutes or an hour to drive, depending on the rain, depending on the snow, depending on what type of car you're driving, etc., and depending on how many other cars are on the road, traffic, detours, and the list goes on. Accidents, the list goes on. Congestion. So therefore, you're going to drive for at least an hour, and you can't break your fast. That's a haraj. That's a hardship. And any person who is roadworthy, who travels a lot, he knows that within an hour, that can become a haraj. Wallahu ta'ala, every trip is not going to be 5 hours. Every trip is not 10 hours or 18 hours. You may have a 2-hour trip, a 3-hour drive, hour and a half drive. Wallahu ta'ala. We don't want to reinvent the wheel by discussing that issue of what's the correct view. What's important is that is the view of the majority of the ulama. And if you don't know, if you can't determine and decipher yourself, then you follow the safe view, inshallah ta'ala. Follow the safe view. So therefore, that's what the marhalatain are. Khairan, inshallah ta'ala. Moving forward. So all three of these hadiths prove that it's permissible. The first hadith is the narration of Ibn Abbas with regards to the Prophet ﷺ going to Mecca. Why did he go to Mecca? What was he doing? Was he making Hajj? Was he making Umrah? Of course it wasn't Hajj. In Ramadan. Does it state that it was in Ramadan? How many times did the Prophet perform Umrah? Very important for every single Muslim to know. Wallahu alam. Tayyib. An-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says here in the Sharh of Sahih Muslim, اختلف العلماء في صوم رمضان في السفر فقال بعض أهل الظاهر لا يصح صوم رمضان في السفر فإن صامه لم ينعقد ويجب قضاؤه لظاهر الآية ولحديث ليس من البر الصيام في السفر وفي الحديث الآخر أولئك العصاة. طيب وقال جماهير العلماء وجميع أهل الفتوى يجوز صومه في السفر وينعقد ويجزيه واختلفوا في أن الصوم أفضل أم الفطر أم هما سواء. خيرا إن شاء الله تعالى. Nawawi rahimahullah, he says that the scholars, they differ. The scholars differ with regards to fasting in the month of Ramadan while traveling. And there are two main views, he says. He gives two main views. View number one is the view of Ba'd Ahl al-Zahir, some of the Zahiri scholars. Some of the Zahiri scholars, not all of them. And it will be a mistake to say that all of them hold that view, but some of them. بعض أهل الظاهر. And many people, they're hypocritical and they're unfair, they're unjust when it comes to the Zahiris. Regardless of some of their mistakes or errors, like other fuqaha have made mistakes and errors. If you open up the can of worms of mistakes and errors and criticism, then there's a ton of criticism that was levied against Abu Hanifa. Tons. And people said all types of things about Abu Hanifa during his lifetime and after his lifetime. There were criticism made against Imam Malik, rahimahullah. There was controversy about the other scholars as well. And there are akhta and aghlaq, and there are things in which they were the only ones who had the view against the Jumhur. So don't beat up the Zahiri scholars for some errors or some things which you don't agree with. And many people, they treat them wrongly and they broad brush the Zahiri scholars. They're not all unified, just like all the Shafi'is don't agree, and all Malikis don't agree, and all Hanafis don't agree. But the madhab people, they paint a picture of a utopia in which when you study our madhab, everything's simple and easy and everything is calculated and you can precisely track all of. That's not true. Abu Hanifa differs with his disciples during his lifetime. There are two different versions of Abu Hanifa's qawl. Imam Malik has different riwayat of the Muwatta, different Muwattas. Imam Shafi has Jadid and Qadim. How many times we read that the Ashab, the Shafi'i scholars, they يختلفون أنفسهم. Imam Ahmed, how many riwayat are there on the position of what breaks the wudu? How many riwayat of Imam Ahmed? Standing, sitting, lying, sleeping, kada, 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 kada. So everything is not simple and plain and easy just because it's a traditional orthodox madhab. And me, myself, personally, I follow the view is that a fatwa does not have to be in accordance with one of the four schools. There is no regulation stating that. And there is no ayah in the Quran that I've read, and there's no hadith of the Prophet that I've come across, it states that the haqq la yakhruj an arba'at rijal wa an arba'at madhahib, that the truth can't leave four men or four schools. And anything outside of these four men or outside of these four schools is automatically excluded. I haven't read anything from that. I haven't read any consensus ijma' of all of the Muslims stating that the truth is only found in four schools. And if it's against the four schools, outside of the four schools, then it's automatically false and you can't use it. I've never read that, and we're not going to follow that until we read something to prove that and to substantiate that. Are there virtues for the four madhabs? Yes. Do they have certain qualities, unique features? No question. But to state that you can't give an answer if it goes outside of the four schools, and we don't agree with that at HadithDisciple. That's not our pedigree. And Allah surely knows best. So some of the Zahiris, they say, is that you cannot fast in the month of Ramadan when you travel. You can't. It's invalid. It is unlawful. So if a person fasts, the fast is invalid. And you must make up that day. And they have proofs, once more. If you agree or disagree, that's fine. But there is dalil for what they say. They hold the view that this is based off of the verse in the Quran, in which Allah Azza wa Jal says, those who are sick or those who are traveling, فَإِدَّةٌ مِّنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرٍ. Allah says then other days, later days. And they say that it has to be on a later day. In Surah Al-Baqarah. طيب, خير inshallah. Moving forward. Also the hadith that we mentioned, that it is not from piety to fast while traveling. And another hadith in which the Prophet says, أُولَٰئِكَ الْعُصَاةِ. When the people did not break their fast, they are the sinners. They are the sinners. طيب. As far as the majority of the scholars, the overwhelming majority, he claims جميع أهل الفتوى. He says all of the muftis. And this is a problem in which you're excluding some Zahiri scholars from being muftis. Who said that? Just because they don't have an orthodox accepted school and the government is not behind this one and this qadi is paid and so on and so on, that doesn't mean anything. The fatwa is al-ikhbaru an hukm Allahi wa rasulihi. Telling the people about Allah's ruling and the ruling of His Messenger. That's what a fatwa is. Fatwa doesn't come from a pedigree or from an aristocrat or bureaucrat or someone of a high birth who has the government behind him and he has an official school. That doesn't, la yalzam. It's not a requirement of a fatwa. Oftentimes, fatwas could be wrong and erroneous that come from those levels of schools of orthodoxy, and oftentimes we know that breeds arrogance. And we know that a wise man, he once said that discipline is just as much a flaw as it is a virtue. Discipline is just as much a flaw as it is a virtue. A person can be too square, too rigid, too stuck, in which they now are affected by arrogance or bigotry and obstinance because it's the Hanafi view that has been propagated for 1,000 years. It's the Shafi'i view that's been around for 1,000 years. It's the Hanbali way. Scholar after scholar, our forefathers, and doesn't mean it's right. It doesn't mean that it's right. So no, he says most of the ulama and all of the people of fatwa, they hold the view is that it's permissible to fast when you travel. It is valid and it will be, inshallah ta'ala, counted. Point number 2. They differ on what's the best thing to do. Or are they equal? Is it best to fast or best to break your fast? Or it doesn't matter no matter what you do. فقال مالك وابو حنيفة والشافعي والأكثرون الصوم أفضل لمن أطاقه بلا مشقة ظاهرة ولا ضرر فإن تضرر به فالفطر أفضل. So the first view is the view of Imam Malik, Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Shafi'i, wal-Aktharuna, and most of the scholars. They hold the view is that as long as you're not harmed, as long as you have the ability to do it, as long as you have the strength and the vigor, then it is best to keep your fast. It is best to keep your fast. واحتجوا بصوم النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وعبد الله بن رواحة وغيرهما وبغير ذلك من الأحاديث ولأنه يحصل به براءة الذمة في الحال. وقال سعيد بن المسيب والأوزاعي وأحمد وإسحاق وغيرهم الفطر أفضل مطلقا وحكاه بعض أصحابنا قولا الشافعي وهو غريب. He then says here, and the proof that they use that is best is the Prophet did it. Abdullah ibn Rawaha radiallahu anhu, he did it, and others they did it as well. And there are many hadiths regarding that. I.e., the Prophet wouldn't do something that was less virtuous. He would only do the thing that was most virtuous. He would do the thing that is most virtuous. Proof number 2 that they use, they say it allows a person to perform the responsibility of fasting immediately. He doesn't have to worry about a debt. He doesn't have to worry about making up a day, forgetting a day, it being a hardship. He doesn't have no worries. He's doing his Islamic obligation on the spot. And of course, that's best, they say. That's the proof that they use. View number 2. That is the view of Sa'id ibn al-Musayyib, meaning from the Salaf. It goes to show you the different inconsistencies of fiqh. Fahm al-Salaf, Sa'id ibn al-Musayyib, is many said Sayyid al-Tabi'een. They say he was the best of the Tabi'een, the most knowledgeable, the most righteous. And he said the opposite. So how do we say we take the Jumhur statement, we take the statement of most and regard the minority all of the time? That is scientifically inaccurate. And if you say that, you're going to run into many brick walls. Many brick walls. Sa'id ibn Musayyib, rahimahullah, no doubt about it. How much knowledgeable, how learned was he than most of the people, if not all, who came after him. Sa'id ibn Musayyib, Imam al-Awza'i, Imam of Sham, no doubt about that. He was a contemporary of Malik. He was the Malik of Syria, of Sham. He had a school. He had disciples. And Imam Ahmed, need we say more? And Ishaq, need we say more? Ishaq ibn Rahawayh, and Waghayrihim, and other scholars. That's the second view, and nobody calls them the minority. And it shows us that out of the 4 schools, Imam Malik, Abu Hanifa, and Shafi'i are on the corner, and Ahmed is in the corner. So do we say Imam Ahmed, shadda an al-ulama? Imam Ahmed, his opinion was weird, it was peculiar. خالف الجمهور خالف الجماهير خالف أهل الفتوى خالف المذاهب الثلاثة المتبعة المعتبرة من مذاهب أهل السنة والجماعة. All of the things that they levy against Ibn Hazm and San'ani and Shawkani and Albani and other scholars that don't restrict themselves to the 4 when they take a view that's not found in those views. So 4 versus the others, 1 versus 3. What's more holy now? What's muqaddas now? So if we have 4 of them agreeing, no one can go against the 4. Right, clear. But now we have the 4 differing. 3 take a view and 1 doesn't. Do the 3 now lose their holiness and their validity? So that's inconsistent. And there are many countless examples in which 1 of the 4 took a view and the other 3 didn't. Proving that the 4 wasn't anything sacred that you could not go against. So these scholars here, they hold the view is that the best thing to do is to break the fast. Mutlaqan, period. If you can or can't do it, it's hard, it's difficult. You need to drink your tea, drink your water. Regardless, break the fast. That's the best thing to do. And there are some Shafi'is who say that this was the view of Imam Shafi'i. No, he rejects this. He says this is strange, this is gharib. As isn't known from the kalam of الشافعي رحمه الله. واحتج بما سبق لأهل الظاهر وبحديث حمزة بن عمرو الأسلمي المذكور في مسلم في آخر الباب، وقوله صلى الله عليه وسلم هي رخصة من الله فمن أخذ بها فحسن ومن أحب أن يصوم فلا جناح عليه وظاهره ترجيح الفطر. And the proofs that they use are the proofs that the people of the Zahiri school used to prove that you cannot fast. Interesting, once again, how one proof is used for two different fiqh issues. They use the proofs that some Zahiris have stated that you cannot fast. They use the proof stating that you can fast, but it isn't best. It's not best to fast when you travel. Point number two, or dalil number two, second evidence that they use is the hadith of Hamza ibn Amr al-Aslami that's collected in Sahih Muslim in the end of the chapter, and it states, "Hiya rukhsatun min Allah." It is a concession from Allah. Allah has allowed it. So whoever takes it, فَحَسَنٌ, then it's good. فَحَسَن, it's good. And those who don't take it and they want to fast, فَلَا جُنَاحَ عَلَيْهِ, is no sin in them fasting. No, he says, and the zahir of that narration is that tarjihul fitr, is that breaking it is best. Allah has allowed it, is a gift from Allah. فَمَنْ أَخَذَ بِهَا فَحَسَنٌ, whoever takes it is good. وَمَنْ أَحَبَّ أَنْ يَصُومَ فَلَا جُنَاحَ عَلَيْهِ, and those who want to fast, there's no sin. So if you looked at that narration, it's apparent and obvious that there's a subtle push towards taking the allowance and the concession from Allah subhanahu wa jalla. Right, moving forward. وأجاب الأكثرون بأن هذا كله في من يخاف ضررا أو يجد مشقة كما هو صريح في الأحاديث. واعتمدوا بحديث أبي سعيد الخدري المذكور في الباب قال كنا نغزو مع رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم في رمضان فمنا الصائم ومنا المفطر فلا يجد الصائم على المفطر ولا المفطر على الصائم. يرون أن من وجد قوة فصام فإن ذلك حسن ويرون أن من وجد ضعفا فأفطر فإن ذلك حسن. وهذا صريح في ترجيح مذهب الأكثرين هو تفضيل الصوم لمن أطاقه بلا ضرر ولا مشقة ظاهرة. وقال بعض العلماء الفطر والصوم سواء لتعادل الأحاديث وصحيح قول الأكثرين والله أعلم. Then no, he mentions the counter strike of the first group of scholars, those who say that it's best to keep the fast. They use as an evidence, they say that those hadiths are pertaining to those who are afraid and scared of becoming harmed, those who are afraid of wearing themselves out. They also use the hadith Abu Sa'id al-Khudri in the chapter. We used to fast with the Messenger of Allah when we traveled, and we used to break our fast. Those who fasted didn't bother those who didn't fast. Those who didn't fast didn't bother those who fasted, etc., etc. So therefore, those who have weakness or fear harm should break their fast, and those who have the power and the strength and the ability are allowed to break their fast. And he says in the third view, some scholars will say that it's equal. It doesn't make a difference whether you fast or whether you break your fast. It's equal. No, he holds the view of the majority. He holds the view of the majority. This is a very beautiful discussion, beautiful explanation in simple terms of the three main views of the ulama regarding this issue. Now you have to look at yourself now. Why are you traveling? In my case, as myself, oftentimes traveling in Ramadan is for da'wah. And there are financial obligations and responsibilities with regards to traveling for da'wah. Someone is paying for my plane ticket. They're paying for the rent-a-car. They're paying for gas and tolls. They're paying for my board, my stay. Okay? They may be offering some type of honorarium or compensation or some type of gift, some type of token of appreciation and value for you traveling to a new country or a different state or a different city to serve their community and to benefit the community, to answer the questions and to give them speeches. So the money is coming from where? It's coming from the masjid's treasury. It's coming from this donation. It's coming from this sponsor. It's coming from this donor, this restaurant owner, this businessman of the masjid. And what type of person are they expecting to reach their masjid when it's time for Jumu'ah? The money that they had to collect and take from the masjid's fund. Someone who's tired. Oh man, I got a headache. I got a migraine. Are you ready, Sheikh? No, I need to sleep. Okay? My lips look like I just ate a powdered donut. Okay? They're crusty and dry. Scratching my throat. And alhamdulillah. It's a problem. I can't focus. I can't concentrate. My classes aren't the same without tea. That's a fact. the T, huh? Alhamdulillah, it does something for the disciplism. So in my case, I have to take that into consideration. I may want to fast, but I'm not just traveling off of my own account. This is a masjid. They have put forth things that are sacred. The wealth of the Muslims is sacred. The wealth of Malullah is sacred. So they want me to give them an inspirational talk, a heartfelt khutbah. Many masjids, unfortunately, they want us spellbinding khutbah, spellbinding talk. We saw you online. We want that in our masjid, in our country. We want you to punch the people. Some brothers, they'll tell you before the khutbah, they'll say, give it to them, shake, knock them out. Don't take it easy on them. Don't be soft. We can take it. Give them to them raw. Wallahi. Many brothers of many different races have said this to me before the talk or before the khutbah. So how can I do that? My stomach is growling. I'm hungry. I'm tired. It's supposed to be a 2-hour drive, but it was a 3-hour drive because of traffic. Okay? 495 South. This exit is traffic. I was held up in the airport. I got held up by security. I got held up by TSA. I missed my flight. It was turbulence. It was ice, etc., etc., etc. So many things can come between a short, easy trip. So you have to be mindful of the purpose of your travel. And I'm only talking about my life and my travels for dawah in most cases in the month of Ramadan. And even if that wasn't the case, it goes back to what do you think and what do you feel? Is it best or not? Absolutely best or not? So there has to be a fiqh, understanding that you use for your own personal life when you travel in the month of Ramadan. We've mentioned before one narration of Abdullah bin Mas'ud radiallahu ta'ala anhu, فيما أذكره, that which I remember. I could be mistaken, but I know for sure that I've read this some while back. Ibn Mas'ud, he says, akrahu, he says, I dislike to do too many additional fasts. Too many additional fasts. Because إني أضعف عن قراءة القرآن. It makes me weak from reciting the Quran. So Ibn Mas'ud in this narration, and I remember now where I read it in Nubath fi Adab Talab al-Ilm, Sheikh Hamad ibn Uthman. He mentions this athar here. I don't remember who collected it, but I read it in that book. He quotes that Ibn Mas'ud said, I don't like to do too many extra fasts because it prevents me from something greater, and that's reading the Quran. But someone who doesn't have to teach the Quran or review it or recite, it may be different. So everyone is different. Everyone's life is different. Everyone's style is different. You have to get in where you fit in. Khairan inshallah. Moving forward. Nawawi rahimahullah, he says, وقوله خرج عام الفتح في رمضان فصام حتى بلغ الكديد ثم أفطر. يعني بالفتح فتح مكة وكان سنة 8 من الهجرة. والكديد بفتح الكاف وكسر الدال المهملة هي عين جارية بينها وبين المدينة 7 مراحل أو نحوها وبينها وبين مكة قريبا من مرحلتين وهي أقرب إلى المدينة من عسفان. قال القاضي عياض الكديد عين جارية على 42 ميلا من مكة. قال وعسفان قرية جامية بها منبر على 36 ميلا من مكة. قال والكديد ما بينها وبين قديد أو قديد. وفي الحديث الآخر فصام حتى بلغ كراع الغميم هو بفتح الغين المعجمة هو واد أمام عسفان ب8 أميال يضاف إليه هذا الكراع وهو جبل أسود متصل به والكراع أنف سال من جبل أو حرة إلى آخره. He then talks about when the Messenger of Allah went out and he traveled, and it was Am al-Fath, the year of the conquest of Mecca. The year of the conquest of Mecca until he reached this region or this area called Kadid. And he says that this was during the 8th year of the Hijrah, and this goes to show us Sirah. And if you're weak in Sirah, and you don't understand the basics of Sirah, and the timetable of Sirah, you're going to be weak in fiqh. When was Ramadan mandatory? When was Am al-Fatah? Why was he traveling? When is he going to make Umrah? Where? And also geography, Kadid, Mecca, Medina, Usfan, these regions. So to be a total student of knowledge, you have to be well-rounded and well-versed and well-read in all of these different things. All of these different things. All right, let's move forward here. There are discussions with regards to the distances and why that's in the chapter heading. He says here as that Kadid was a spring or a well, which was 7 marhalas. 7 marhalas from Medina. 7. It wasn't less than 2, right? Moving forward. Then he discusses that, how far exactly, etc. And the different discrepancies regarding that. Khairan inshallah. The Prophet ﷺ mentioning the sinners. ليس من البر الصيام في السفر. It is not an act of piety to fast when you're traveling. And it goes to show us the sabab al-wurud and the sabab al-tahdith, why the Prophet said something, why the companion narrated, why the tabi'een passed it on. And that helps a person to understand the hadith properly. It helps a person to understand the hadith properly. Last fa'idah that we mentioned tonight here, and Allah knows best. There are many fawaid with regards to, or maybe we'll mention them tomorrow or our next class. If you stop fasting or start fasting, all right, we'll mention them tomorrow, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, or the class afterwards. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best.